Namaste, everyone. Welcome to class. Glad that you're here. So finding our comfortable seat, and maybe it'll be a little bit more comfortable in a moment or two, okay? But just finding a seat that you can take right now. I've got my blocks underneath my legs. I haven't done much warming up of anything this morning, so just starting out slowly with the blocks, looking for a tall spine, and just lean forward a little bit and lean back. A little bit back and forth. And then up in the very middle of that space with your lumbar curve, a little bit over to the left, a little bit over to the right. One more time to either side. And then find yourself in the middle and make sure you didn't go forward because we have a tendency to lean forward. So stack up your spine. With your spine very erect for a moment, just imagine that you can lift the spine itself all the way up and occupy another centimeter above your head. And then relax your sit bones down on either side. Legs are relaxed, shoulders are relaxed, head is relaxed, just balancing gently on the top of the spine. And then letting your eyes close or take a soft gaze down to the floor. Without changing it, beginning to notice the breath. Notice the quality of the breath. Is it warm? Is it smooth? How can you describe to yourself the breath? Is it full? Is it shallow? And then relaxing intentionally into the breath just a little bit more, just letting the universe breathe you. Noticing the qualities around you. Maybe softness, acceptance. And then gently bringing the hands into the heart, Anjali Mudra, just resting the thumbs gently on your sternum, keeping the eyes downward or closed. With gratitude, we salute all the great yoga masters, past and present. A special prayer of thanksgiving for Baba Hari Das. With joy, we recognize the excellent wisdom teachings of yoga, Ayurveda, and with vigor, we dedicate ourselves to self-transforming practice. A new day. What do you need today for self-transformation? Letting that thought bubble up and then ponder it for just a moment or two. And then thinking of someone or something to which to offer your practice today, letting that come into your mind space, just remembering what needs that little bit of help. And then these two thoughts that are in our mind slip down into our heart. We'll bring them back at the end of practice. And then join me, if you would, with one resounding Om. So exhaling the breath all the way out, a nice big inhale to chant. And then letting your eyes flutter open. Let's take our fingers and interlace them for a moment, just taking the comfortable interlace, and then make some infinity symbols, just making those figure eights with your wrist. And let's see if you can go back in the other direction. It takes me thinking about it for that to happen. Good. And then press your hands out away from you. Just press into the interlaced fingers. Good. And then bring them up and then open the palms, just putting the heels of the hands together and open the palms broadly. And then let's take together our little finger and our thumb into lotus mudra for just a moment. Remembering the lotus growing out of that muddy water, a nice metaphor for our life, our beautiful lotus coming out of the muddy water. Good. And keep peeling the hands open for a moment as much as you can. And then let's take the uncomfortable lace with the finger. So put it in the other direction. And again, infinity symbols. And then the other direction. Good. And then squeeze the hands together. Squeeze them a lot. Go ahead and press out in the opposite direction. Good. And then bring them in and relax them, and let's tent our fingers up together and press into the fingertips, just pressing into the fingertips. This is also a different mudra. I've forgotten its name. Pressing into the fingertips. Good. And then taking your hands, your fingers over to the right side. So just feeling the fingers going over to the right, press into them with your left hand. And then the opposite. So working with the wrist and the fingers and the tendons. This is good for carpal tunnel, to avoid it. If you have carpal tunnel acting up now because you've been on the computer too much and this feels aggravating, stop. We don't want to work with an inflamed area. But one more time to either side, just pressing in. Good. And then bring them and press in one more time into the center. Great. And then slowly make as small as you can, like squeezing, squeezing, squeezing. And then shake out your hands. Great. The whole wrist. And then adding our elbows. And then the other direction. And again. And again. Good. And then resting your arms down. Let's go ahead and change the cross of our leg for a moment, whatever leg we had in front or however we were sitting, just change it up a little bit. If you were sitting in Vajrasana, just move your heels out to the side a little bit in Virasana. So just a little bit of a change while we continue to work in this upper shoulder trapezius area for just a moment, okay? So just dropping your ear, your left ear towards your left shoulder. Keep your face front and center, like don't take it down. Keep it front and center and just dropping. And then notice any tension that's formed over on the right side of your neck. Just be there. Don't press it in any more further. And then go ahead and use your left hand and put your head back, okay? Just not making the muscles tense up. We have this beautiful lace collar. It's sort of like made out of muscle. And then let's head over to the other side. So don't drop your face toward the floor. Keep it front and center. Just feeling the whole of that platysma, just opening. And then use your right hand and push your head back, okay? So we're gonna go one more time, and this time when we go over to the left side, I want you to take your left arm out to the side, flip the palm toward the ceiling, and gently lay your left hand over close to your right ear. And just a little tiny bit of surrender. Don't put too much weight into it. Just a little bit of surrender. So just a tiny bit more. And then let your left hand just smoothly go to the other side of your head and again help it up. Good. And relax. Just notice the difference in the sides of the neck. And then let's drop the right one in toward the shoulder, right ear toward the shoulder. Raise out the right arm. Flip the palm up toward the ceiling. And then drape the arm over. Right arm getting close to your left ear. It might touch, might not. And then surrender into that. Don't press, don't pull, just surrender into that little bit of extra weight. Breathe. And then let your hand come all the way to the other side and press the head back up. Good. And then just rest for a moment, again, balancing the head, maybe just a little bit of a wobble at the top, a little head wobble. And then thinking of your chin only moving, okay? So we're gonna take the chin out over and toward the left shoulder and bring it back. And then the chin out toward the right shoulder and bring it back. One more time left. Once you get there, take your left hand and just a little bit of pressing into the right cheek to take it a little bit further. Then release your hand and come back into neutral. Good. And then take it over to the right side. And then use your right hand, just a little press into the chin, take it a little bit further, release the right hand. And then bring it back front and center. And then to the left, just see if it goes where it did with your little encouragement, but no touching at this time. And bring it back. And to the right. Good. And bring it back. Great. And then I want you to imagine that you have just a half a dollar, like one of those 50-cent pieces. It's not very big. And with that, I want you to make little tiny circles. If you had a pencil out of the crown of your head, just little bitty circles with the head, drawing a 50-cent, drawing around a 50-cent coin. And then go in the other direction. It's very subtle movement. Also working the whole of the neck muscles and the platysmus, trapezius, everything's getting in it, whether you feel it or not. Good. Okay, and so let's go ahead and take our blocks out of the way and stretch our feet out into Dandasana. We're still going to do a few more things with the shoulders and arms, but just wiggle your legs for a minute. Just wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Good. And then sweep your feet over to the right side. If you have your block, go ahead and put it underneath your left sit bone and just draw yourself up a little taller. Good. So with our shoulders, create a triangle from your shoulders to your belly button. Shoulders to your belly button. Create this triangle. And that's the triangle that I want you to take over to the left side. So I want your belly button to stay front and center, and above it, come over to the left side. So the left shoulder can lead and get out of the way, and then it can come back. And just moving to the left. And I like to move on the inhale as Babaji instructed so that we have something against which to resist in the chest cavity instead of collapsing into it. And then back on the exhale. See what works for you. And then back. Good. And then go ahead and put your left hand down on the floor and draw the right arm over and look for a little bit of a diagonal line and stretch your hip away from your hand away from your hip. Really stretch through the whole of the right side. And then bend your left elbow and press up and come back up to neutral. Good. And then just come off and swish your legs over to the left side. Put the block now under your right sit bone. So it's only under the right sit bone. Good. And again, we're going to let the right shoulder open and lead as we twist and come back. So create that triangle from the belly button upward, belly button down, stays front and center, and we're just moving with the thoracic spine. And back, and inhale and twist, and back, and twist, and back, and one more. Twist, and back. And then let's lean over to the right side. Just place your hand firmly on the floor. Let your left arm come up toward the ceiling. Flip the palm there, and then reach it over. Create a nice diagonal line. Breathe. And then pull the hand away from the hip away from the hand. Just breathing and stretching and breathing. Still staying diagonal. I'm not really overstretching. I'm just pulling away isometrically. Good. And then bend the right elbow and press up. Good. And then let's come into all fours. Good. So finding your cat pose. And we're going to do cat up. We're also going to do a form of cat lying down today. Okay. So first we'll do our just kneeling cat pose. So finding yourself. Better color shadow. Okay. So finding yourself with your wrist underneath your hands and your feet laid out if that's comfortable for you. If not, go ahead and tuck the heels under. We're going to move only on the exhaled breath. Okay. So as we exhale, we're going to pull the belly to the spine, arch the spine toward the ceiling, tuck the chin to the chest, and inhale, come back to neutral. Do that 3 times, just that one move. And then finding your neutral. And then we're going to go in the opposite direction. We're going to do that 3 times. So you're going to move on the exhale. So exhale, belly toward the floor, push the floor away, press into the feet and the hands, and inhale back to neutral. And again, exhale, curl your body in the other direction, and inhale. Press and curl, and inhale, neutral. And now let's try to combine those movements for a moment. So exhale, curl toward the ceiling. Inhale, neutral. Exhale, curl toward the floor. And inhale, neutral. 3 more. Slow down your move. Last one. Good. And then continue to press the floor away. And then reach back through your left heel. Keep the foot tucked under and on the floor. So foot's on the floor, just reaching back through the left heel. We're going to come down onto our forearms for a moment. So just down onto your forearms, flip your palms toward the floor, press into the forearms. So you're really pressing up. Don't collapse down. Press into the forearms and then lift the heel just enough to make a nice diagonal line. Gazing at the floor. Belly is engaged. Your toes are toward the floor. Don't let your toes go out to the side. There's no rotation here. And then release to the floor. Bring your hands back where your elbows were. Good. And then release the left leg. Good. With me? All right. Right leg reaching back, tuck the toes under, keep it there for a moment. Good. Pull in your belly. Make sure you're engaged in your abdomen. And then coming down onto the forearms. Palms facing the floor, open your hands big and press into the forearms and hands. And then slowly lifting the right leg just enough to get a nice diagonal line. Belly's engaged, toes are toward the floor. This floating plank. Keep your belly engaged. Breath is in the chest. And then release the leg back down, keep the toes tucked under. Put your hands, come up and put your hands where your elbows were. Get nice and firm in your table again and release the leg. Good. Take 2 more cat poses here. So exhaling and arching, inhaling, neutral, exhale, arching direction, inhaling, neutral, 1 more set. Good. And then coming into your table, being very stable there, and come back onto your heels. You can slip in a block or a pillow or something right there if that will help you. Okay. And then let's make some circles with our wrist. Nice big circles. Other direction. Good. And then let's come up onto the knees. Great. So just onto our knees. Good. We're going to bring out an external rotation, the left leg. So just bring it out and stack the ankle right underneath the knee, or the knee right over the ankle. Okay. Belly button is still front and center. So if you're looking at the side of your mat, your leg is on the inside in front of you. Okay. So find yourself nice and open there, open in the groin. Good. So just noticing that this is a very intense warrior 2 left leg. Warrior 1 is in stable pose. If we were going to go to a warrior 2 leg, we'd have to abduct it out, and that would make us in this position very tenuous in our stance. But let's think about warrior for a moment. So open your arms out, flip the palms. So the opening happens from the shoulders, and then just flipping the palms in pronation. Pull in your pelvic floor, pull in your belly. Good. And then looking out over the side. We're going to string the bow and let the arrow go 3 times. Okay. So go ahead and reach over with your right arm. Put the bow in, pull it back, let it go. Open it out. Good. Bring it in, pull it back, release it, and open. And over, pull it back, release the arrow, and open. Good. Continuing to look out to the left side. Notice any tension in your arms and your shoulders. Relax the shoulders down away from the ears for just a moment, and then re-engage the muscles along the back. Belly is in. Still looking over to the left side. Arms are still shoulder height. Go ahead and lift your left toes. Just taking your mind elsewhere. Good. Keep breathing. Keep your belly in, breath in the chest. And then bring your gaze back front and center. And release your arms. Good. So that isometric, non-moving thing really helps those muscles to realize the action we just did. And hopefully you're looking over to that side because of all the neck work we did was more comfortable. Take the leg and put it back. Good. Your toes can be tucked underneath behind you, or they can be laid out flat, whichever is most comfortable. And now the right leg in external rotation. Knee is right over your ankle. If you look down, you cannot see your heel. You can only see your big toe. So make sure you have your leg aligned properly to not torque your knee or your ankle. Belly button is right now front and center, and the leg is on the inside. Good. Breathing. And then let's raise the arms up shoulder height. Flip the palms and the whole arms from the shoulders. And then pronate, just turn the palms over toward the floor. Keep your neck long as you gently take your chin out toward your right shoulder, gazing out over your right fingers. Breathing. Pelvic floor is engaged. Keep your shoulders down. Don't let them crawl up close to your ears. Just keep them down. Keep thinking down with the shoulders, up with the spine. Belly is fully engaged. You can lift the toes on your right foot. Breathing. Just smoothing out the breath, noticing it and smoothing it out, keeping it in the chest. Keep the belly stable. Just a little while longer. We're going to string the arrow in the bow, okay? So flip the back palm up toward the ceiling, reach it over, pull back on the string, let the arrow go, opening the palm out. Over, pull back, release the arrow, open it out. Over, pull back, release the arrow, and bring it back. See if your shoulders crawled anywhere up. Both palms again toward the floor. Just a few more easy breaths, shoulders creeping down. And then release the arms, bring your gaze back front and center. Just notice how it's feeling in the neck, in the shoulders. Good. And then release the both legs down and take your hips back to your heels. If you can sit for a moment in Vajrasana, so there's no rotation, we're just sit with the bent legs, and you can put a little pillow up underneath you, like a pillow would be great to just stick between your heels and your bottom if you'd like. Nice upright spine. Let's take our arms out to the side in this wonderful hero, and then place the palms facing one another. And this time let your shoulders come on up and disappear your neck completely. So just let the shoulders come up out of the sockets. Good. And then set the shoulders back down in the sockets. Great. Bend your left elbow and reach over, grab the left elbow, and just take the arm back as much as is comfortable. Just try not to trap your head or your neck. So just move the arm. You can always take the arm back behind. Lift up through the ribs, but don't do a huge back bend here. And then release, both arms up again. And then bending at the elbow. So now the right arm, and then just lengthening the tricep. Breathing. Make sure you haven't compressed your neck and pushed your head backwards or forwards or anything. And then let's release both arms back up toward the ceiling. And then slowly lower and just place your palms, dominant hand on top, in your lap with your thumbs gently touching. Relax your shoulders. Super relaxation to the shoulders. Notice the hips and the heels, the connection there. Sitting in this thunderbolt pose. Good. And then come on up back into table for just a moment. And I want you to clean the inside of a peanut butter jar with your body. So pressing into the side of the jar, remember the jar is round and it's even. So it's not bigger at the bottom than at the top, or bigger at the top than the bottom. This is a nice cylinder of a jar. And so cleaning out the whole of the peanut butter, coming back to the other side. Don't go too far out to the side. Remember, the jar, you are contained in the jar. Shoulders and hips, you're just trying to clean the whole jar. And then press in and arch the spine toward the ceiling, pressing with the hands and through the legs completely. And stay and breathe slowly. Just breathe generous, beautiful breaths into the back body. And then on your next inhale, coming back into neutral. And then arching in the other direction, tucking the tailbone toward the back of the head toward the tailbone, pressing the floor away with the hands and the legs and the feet. Curling in that direction and breathing. Notice the breath is shallower because of the lack of space. but keep it smooth. And then inhale back into neutral. Good. And then let's cross our ankles in the back. So cross your ankles and come back into a comfortable Sukhasana seated pose for just a moment. Just finding Sukhasana. And then make some nice big circles around your pelvic basket. Go back, go in one direction for one full circle, and then in the other direction for one full circle. Good. And then totally into just a neutral seated pose. Just being still for a moment, noticing your breath. Let your eyes close for a minute, just noticing the quality. Before we go to the floor, just taking this seated pose and noticing your neck, your spine, your shoulders. Check in with your jaw and find your breath. And then on your next inhale, letting your eyes flutter open, and you're going to watch for just a moment. I'm going to go down and demonstrate for you, but I'd rather you watched before you lie down so you don't have to crane your neck or move your space or yourself or anything, okay? So I'm going to lie down, and we're first going to do just a lot. Legs can do alone. So we're going to try that. So that's going to be the first. And then the next thing I mentioned is our cat lying down. So how we're going to do that is we're going to arch the spine, feel the spine arch up, and that's an exhale. And we inhale just to neutral, so finding that neutral spot. And then arch in the other direction, pushing my low back toward the floor. I'm not doing anything else. I'm just working with that arching area right there. And then inhale neutral. So I'm going to arch. My pubic bone dives down and inhale neutral. And then I'm going to arch in the other direction and my pubic bone comes toward my face. So you can use the pubic bone to guide you. Okay, so lie down. We're going to start first with our lying down pigeon pose. And remember, hands, just let your arms rest on the floor. You can make a little bit of an A-frame or a little wigwam. Good. And then just take both feet off the floor for a minute and bring your knees in gently, but no hands. And then go ahead and put your right foot back on the floor and then your left ankle above the right knee. Open the leg out. So really open it into external rotation as you lift your right foot off the floor. So keeping knee, ankle, and hip in one plane, if that's possible for you, and no hands. Just keeping the hands close, but not using them. The arms, try to see if you can relax your shoulders a little bit and just work at the leg, at the hip joint. And then slowly go ahead and lower the right foot to the floor and unleash the left leg. Relax, relax your bottom. And then again, bring both feet off the floor. Just be there for a moment. And then let your left foot come back to the floor. And then put your right ankle somewhere between your knee and your hip, closer to your knee. And again, no hands as you lift the left leg. Make sure ankle, knee, and hip are open and in the same plane. Just breathing. See if you can keep your shoulders out of it, hands and arms out of it. And then making your way to the floor with your left foot. Unleash the right leg. Just put the foot on the floor so the knees are still bent. And from here, we're going to try our resting cat. Okay, so find your low back curve. Make sure you have it. Lift your hips up, wiggle them out, place the hips back down, and make sure you have some low back curve. That's your neutral position. Okay, so from there, let's arch the spine as you dive the pubic bone down in front of you towards your feet and arching. And inhale back to neutral. Keep it neutral. Make sure you've got a little bit of curve. And then exhale, press the low back into the floor. Pubic bone reaches up towards your legs and back into neutral. So a few rounds of reclined cat pose. So keep going. Exhale on each movement. Inhale into neutral each time. So notice the arch off the floor, neutral, arch down to the floor, neutral. Keep it going. Let's do 2 more sets. So relaxing on the one finally with your low back curve. So keep that neutral spine for a moment. Keep your feet on the floor for just a moment. And from here, we're going to do either legs up the wall, but we're not going to use a wall. We're just going to balance our legs in the sockets for a moment. Okay. So everybody can do this with your bottom still on the floor. You're welcome to go a stage further if you want into Viparita Karani Mudra or even shoulder stand. That's up to you. But I'm going to guide us just bringing our feet off the floor and our knees into the chest. Low back goes into the floor. Walk your shoulders up and away. So getting long in the spine and then lifting the legs toward the ceiling. Initially flex the feet, toes towards you, reach through the heels. Let your big toe knuckles touch gently. And then relax the feet, toes will come up, the legs will come apart a little bit and just balance in the joint. Just balancing the knees, the legs, the feet, all just balanced. You can bend your knees a little bit more. You can take them a little closer to you. If that helps to balance it a little bit more, you decide. You're welcome to make as much a modification as keeps it comfortable with the bottom on the floor and the legs in the air. Try to relax the legs. We're going to try to spend another 30 seconds here. So see what you can do. The legs begin to tremble. That's good. Just let it happen. And then slowly just bend your knees a little further. You're looking up at the ceiling. Put your feet on the floor. Good. And then let's stretch our legs out along the floor. We're going to go into Shavasana, but first I want you to tense and relax the body. So make yourself into a starfish of sorts. Clench your fist, squeeze your toes, press your shoulders down into the floor, arch your spine, and then release and relax. Let's do that 2 more times. Make fists, scrunch your toes, arch your back off the floor, squeeze, make an ugly face, squeeze, and release. 1 more time. Scrunch the hands, the wrists, point your toes or flex the feet, whichever you'd like. Arch the spine off the floor and release. Let your jaw open. Breathe gently. No control. I'm coming up to mind the time. You stay down and relax. Babaji says this is the hardest pose of all. Just letting go. Check in with your jaw. Make sure you didn't push that mandible back in again. Let it go. Slowly and gently, bringing your awareness into the breath. Just noticing the rise and the fall of your belly or your chest. Beginning your conscious breathing right here. So just noticing the breath, finding it in the belly or the chest. Letting it begin to expand out a little bit deeper breath. Make the exhale a little bit longer than your inhale. So if you can count 4 on your inhale, count 5 or 6 on your exhale. Just noticing and lengthening the breath. This time as the breath comes back and the exhale, pull the belly into the spine gently. And then inhale, release the belly muscles and let the breath go into the belly, just into the belly. Before it begins to rise to the chest, use your belly muscles and press it out. Gravity helps here. Just abdominal breathing. Letting your muscular system aid you in the breath. And on the next exhale, when you take your belly to your spine, keep the belly there and breathe into your chest. Let your ribs spread side to side, front to back. Keep the belly engaged and just doing a few chest breaths. Again, if you can, keeping the exhale a tiny bit longer than the inhale. And on your next exhale, we're going to combine those two into what we call the yogic breath. Belly to spine, and then relax the belly muscles. Breath starts there. And then pull that same inhale up into the chest, spreading it side to side, front to back. And then take a little longer with your exhale as the lungs recoil. At the very bottom of that exhale, just a little tug to your belly to make sure you got everything out that you could. And then relax the belly muscles. Inhale, belly, chest. And one slow, smooth exhalation. Just keep going. Just noticing, paying careful attention to every quality that's involved in your breath right now. One more full yogic breath. And then slowly letting the control go, just falling back into your natural breath pattern, wherever it is. Beginning to roll the eyes and the sockets, moving the tongue in the mouth, wiggling your nose, wriggling your ears, swimming your fingers and toes. All the senses coming back online. And then you can decide how you want to make your way over into embryo pose. You can take a nice overhead stretch. You can shrink in and hug yourself in, however you would like to make your way. But to do it slowly and just rocked over to one side, whichever side you'd like in embryo. All curled up, safe and secure. And then gently, as you're ready, beginning to press the floor away, letting your head be the very last thing that comes up. So keep the chin tucked in, press the floor away, spiral up, and at the very end, just stack your head on top of your spine. Just being there for a moment, letting the asana integrate. And then grab whatever you might need to finish the practice because we don't want to move between pranayam and meditation. We're going to continue the pranayam seated for just a moment, just repeating those 3 breaths briefly. So if you need an extra shawl or something to cover up with while we go into meditation, just grab it, have it handy, so that the minimum amount of movement between our pranayam and our meditation. So for the pranayam, just again, bringing yourself into the awareness of abdominal breathing. So exhale the belly to the spine, relax the belly, breath comes in. Exhale belly to spine, relax the belly, breath comes in. And on your next exhale, belly to spine, leave it there and into the chest. This is often called bucket handle breathing. So the bucket handles are your ribs and they're moving out to the side and to the front a little. The back is restricted by the spine itself. But think about a broken umbrella with one broken part at the back. That would be the spine, and everything else can move out like a parachute lifting as it contracts and rises, and then it slowly releases, relaxes. And then moving into the yogic breath. So belly to spine, inhale belly, draw it into the chest. The belly will come back all on its own. The belly will recede as you bring it into the chest region. And then one slow, smooth, gentle exhalation. Just a couple more on your own. Yogic breathing. And after this last breath, just letting yourself relax into your shallow, shallow breathing. Just noticing body, breath, mind. Our meditation this morning is going to be on those 5 senses, each representing one of the 5 elements. And just bringing yourself to the awareness of how it is in your body. Odor, the sense of smell. Remembering smells of cookies, fresh rain, menthol, eucalyptus. Remembering smell. Flavor, tasting. The taste of a juicy grapefruit, an apple, a mango, or a melon. The taste of salt water in the sea. The sense of taste. form, the sense of vision, seeing, imagining seeing a mountain, an ocean, a clear blue sky. The sense of seeing. Touch, the sense of touching, feeling something on your skin, your clothes, cool water, hot steam, the skin of a baby, the sense of touch. The sense of sound, this bowl, my voice, the ambient noise where you are, the call of a bird, the sense of hearing. For just a moment, letting yourself drop into that senseless place, that place we call intuition, that comes to us not through the senses, just being there for a moment. Bringing our meditation to a close. Releasing any mantra you might have done in your head, any mudra you might have done with your hands. Just being still for a moment longer as everything integrates. Bringing the hands into the heart, Anjali Mudra, remembering right here your intention and your offering. Letting those thoughts slip out of your mind and down into your heart space. Let's hold them there for a moment. Any merit we might have earned this morning, we lift it up as well to all sentient beings. And then letting your arms float up and take these gifts out into the universe, bringing the hands back into the heart. Hari Om Tat Sat. Namaste. Okay, I'm coming to you. All right, let me fix it where I can see you better and get rid of this spotlight and let you be able to talk. Great. And get my gallery view. Good. Okay. So namaskar, namaste, everyone. Nice to see you. So how's everybody doing this morning? Oh, thank you, Mary. Thanks. Thanks. Thank you, Manipa, for yesterday. Thank you. Thank you. Dios te lo pague, as we say. God will pay you for that. It's so nice to see everyone. Last night in sutra class, we did a 5-element meditation. We have a little sutra class here in Guatemala in English. You guys are welcome to come anytime you want. It's Wednesday nights at 7 here. So that's 5 in California. But we did a little sensory meditation, and it really made me want to continue on, just sort of thinking about being with the senses for a moment and using the senses to think about being beyond the senses into that intuitive place where knowledge comes, but it's not been filtered through a sense, right? Where sometimes you just wake up in the morning and you know something, and it may be from memory, it may be from just your recording faculty, but sometimes you don't have any memory of it, and something new has come in, and that's when we're accessing chit or accessing the mind field, but not necessarily using our senses. It's that sort of special involution quality of Samkhya, of our philosophy of believing that we all are all made up of the same qualities, right? That all of us are made up of those 5 elements inside us and all the world around us as well. Yeah. So how the practice today was really, the focus was a lot on the shoulders and the neck and sort of moving into that area and trying to get it a little bit more flexible and tense, but also I made sure that we had enough hip in there that I felt like you were doing a whole body movement. But how are your shoulders and arms right now? How do they feel? Good, good. And did you find that as you went along, you were getting more flexibility in that area?
Yeah.
Yeah, all the computer work, absolutely. Yeah.
Ginger?
Yes.
I have 2 bad shoulders, so what I did was visualize those movements with my shoulders,
Mm-hmm.
and I actually do feel like they're more open
Oh,
and
thank
not
goodness.
so.
That's great. That's a great thing to do, Jean. Really, truly. Uh-huh.
I take
Yeah,
a Feldenkrais class, and he always has it visualized. So
absolutely. I used to
got it.
love to have students always visualize the whole sun salute without ever doing it, just to envision themselves doing the whole thing, in all of its beauty. And then like I would walk them through it with their eyes closed, standing at the front of their mat. I'd walk them through all 12 postures. And then we would start to do it. And I know that everybody felt so much better having just done it once in their mind, that opening that happens in our mind space. Yeah. The
It's
mind is
something
so
you have to
powerful.
actually experience to believe that that can happen, at least for me.
Yeah. Well, but once you do it, it can, and then
Right.
yeah. And Charles, you were going to say something? Ramanand, do you say Ramanand?
Yeah,
Okay.
I was, but I don't remember what it was now. So
Yeah. So the other thing is like accessing our breath while we're on the floor. Did that seem much more viable to you this morning? Like trying to get the breath while you're lying down and you have a little
Yes.
gravity help? And I think
Yes.
the yogic breath is so much more understandable to our psyche from that lying down position, from us understanding, because sometimes you can't really, I don't think it's easy to know what I mean when I say, and the belly recedes all on its own, especially if you're 10 or 15 pounds overweight. It's like, wow, what the heck is she talking about? Been there, done that. So, and like as a woman, any extra weight I have goes to my waist or goes to my belly, because that's where our estrogen storages are. Even when we get ancient, what little tiny bit might be left to protect us, it's right there in your belly. So I love my Buddha belly and I accept my Buddha belly, but it's hard for us women sometimes to understand when I say the belly recedes, it comes back. But when you're lying down, you totally get it, right? You totally get it, because as you move it up into your chest, of course the belly recedes, because you just opened your chest girdle. And so what we're doing here, and I want you to think about this for a moment, is really using Stula Sharira, which is our gross body, our physical body, to affect Sukshma Sharira, to affect our subtle body, right? We're using that gross space. We're pulling apart the ribs grossly, because that increases the capacity that's there in the lungs for taking in the breath. So when we pull it out of the belly and we begin to move it side to side, we just automatically have more breath in those lungs. It's a misnomer to say that direct your breath, because you can't really direct your breath, but you can direct the pranic energy. Your breath only goes into your lungs. It can't go anywhere else. When I say belly breath, it's not headed down into your belly. It's what we're doing is working with our sympathetic versus parasympathetic nervous system, because at night, or even right now while you're listening to me and not paying attention to your breath, your diaphragm is being moved by the phrenic and vagal nerve. They have this beautiful dance that's happening, right? And so you're just breathing and not even really thinking about it, and that's keeping you alive, right? But it's very subtle, but it's down toward the diaphragm, which is why our belly breath is the one that stimulates the parasympathetic, the rest and digest. Yesterday, I had a wonderful interview with Donna. Donna, wave your hand. She's our webinar coordinator for Mount Madonna Institute. And she had a webinar live with me and Nick Fortino. Dr. Nick Fortino is a psychologist and he teaches in our School of Yoga. And we had such an interesting interview yesterday afternoon, really thinking about activating the parasympathetic nervous system and taking the sympathetic, that fight, fright, flee, flee or freeze, all of that nervous system, which is in our upper chest, that like that we want to not do ever, right? And so thinking about exhaling being the key, because as you exhale the breath all the way out, you empty out the lungs to about 30%. The rest of those 30% stay in there no matter how hard you try. So, you exhale the breath out as much as you possibly can. And then when you inhale, it just comes in, it just floats in, right? And that brings you into that parasympathetic mode. So if we don't do anything except learn to really abdominally breathe, that will help our whole nervous system, even if we don't take it really into a full yogic breath. So the full yogic breath, that's a really expansion of the thoracic cavity. So you start at the belly, which drops the diaphragm down, and then you expand into that whole cavity. And if we were to take, they did this, I'm sorry to say, with, I've forgotten what, I want to say barium. I can't remember. There's a cancer-causing drug that they used back at the end of World War II with soldiers who were dying of tuberculosis. I'm going to say anyway. And they did pranayam test. And when I took my yoga teacher training in 2002, the daughter of the man who performed these terrible Nazi-like experiments was an American and doing them at the VA hospital. And he the video now is no longer available because it's just way too weird that that ever happened and that was okayed by the VA. But what they did show, and back when I saw it 20 years ago, yes, of course it was controversial, but she showed it to us, and then all of a sudden, I think over a period of time, she realized that that was not cool, that what was happening in that video was not a good thing to show, because the soldiers were all on their way out, but they at least had longer lives. And that's what she felt better about, because they were able to control their breath by controlling the space of their thoracic cavity, so they could like get more space and more space and more space. So they got a better quality of breath just by learning to get space in their intercostal muscles and use the exhale to command. Because if you exhale the breath all the way out, then you have some space in which to inhale. But if you continually keep a very superficial short breath, you never have any place to get a nice big rich, we're not breathing in a lot of oxygen no matter what. I don't know if you know how few molecules of oxygen there are in a breath, but it's mostly carbon, it's coming in. And so we have to, like, oxygen rich means bigger, and CO2 rich, which means like getting it out and nourishing the plants, needs to be bigger. So we always can think about bigger. So exhale is the key. Exhaling the breath out. But if you'd like to hear the interview you can go to Mount Madonna Institute on Facebook, or you can go to mine. I shared it yesterday too, so it's just Ginger Hooven on Facebook, either one of them, and you'll see Dr. Nick and me and Donna having a chat for 45, almost 55 minutes. So it's not a quick chat. Maybe you can play it while you're having breakfast. Give yourself some time to just sit with the three of us. We would really enjoy your listening to it and letting us know how it feels. Nick has a great webinar coming up on Saturday on yoga and psychology, which it's a donation based only, and I know you'd love it. Yes, Maniba.
Ginger, I tried to watch it last night and you were kind of breaking up. Was that my computer, or have you watched it later on?
I have watched it. I haven't watched it. I watched it on the MMI site and then I shared it, and it was fine for me on the MMI site.
Okay.
You might just pause
again.
it. You might open it and pause it and then let it load and then watch it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'll do that. Thank you.
Yeah. But usually it's us when it's slow and breaking up like that. Usually it's our own thing. Yeah. All right. Well, it's really nice hanging out with you, and I appreciate your being here and I know it's 6 a.m. In March 15th, we change back. You guys in California spring forward, and we're going to go back to 8 a.m. for me, 7 a.m. for you on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So everybody will be thrilled. You won't have a 6 a.m. class. You'll have 2 7 a.m. classes. Yeah. That'll make us all feel a little bit better. Thank you, Varmita. Thank you, everyone. Yakna and your beautiful little girl there. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming to class. Nice to hang out with you for a little while. Have a great Thursday. Maybe you can see Dr. Nick on Saturday, and you'll see that I'm having a 5 elements workshop, but we'll talk more about that later. Okay? Much love. Take care.